Hi there, guys. Thanks for having me. Today, I want to look at building a DeFi app on the Oasis ETH paradigm. So to get started, we ask the question, why would we want to do this? So, of course, currently we have the opportunity to get $2,000 prize money in crypto by building your decentralized finance app on the Oasis ETH paradigm. So what we're going to do is show you some great tools that you can go ahead and use to build not only the smart contract and deploy and interact with that, but also to help you out with the front end to make the front end application design and implementation easier, and also to deploy that as a single page application with the push of a button. Obviously, setting up a front end application is reasonably tricky in terms of hosting server-side code and security and things like that. So we've got a fantastic tool that we'll show you. It's an integrated development environment, and you can do everything: smart contract. You can do all your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript, and interact with the blockchain. It even integrates with wallet software, so you can pretty much sit down in one session and build something in as little as a few minutes, which we'll show you. And if you want to keep going and developing it, you can still keep using that same development environment and just keep tweaking your application until you're very happy with it. And then we'll show you how you can actually publish that, launch that to the world as a one-page application without having to host any servers or run any gear. So, all right, let's get into that. So just a quick rundown on this. So we'll start, I think the best place if you're new to this is to visit the oasiseth.org site, where you'll find links to anything and everything that you need to partake in this Oasis ETH ecosystem. So you're all welcome to actually follow along. I'll go at a reasonably moderate pace. So if you want to do like a real-time participation, have a look at the tutorials for creating a DeFi app, a DApp, that would be good. Okay, so there's some social media on the Oasis ETH community. We've got Twitter and Facebook and Discord and Telegram that you can see there. There are links to all of these social media platforms on the actual Oasis ETH website. So don't forget to like and share and subscribe, etc., so that you can receive and share fresh content. And obviously you'll be interacting with other like-minded Oasis ETH enthusiasts. So go ahead and join all of those. Okay, so the Oasis ETH mainnet actually has a faucet, and so the faucet.oasiseth.org will give you some free OETH. Due to the high popularity of OETH and extreme load on the servers, the Oasis ETH cannot always guarantee uptime for the faucet. So if you run into an issue with the faucet, please follow at Oasis ETH on Twitter. So that was the link in the previous slide. And if you DM that Twitter account with your OETH address, then they'll actually manually send you some OETH so you can get started. So you're going to need some OETH to at the very least pay gas on the network when you deploy your contracts and things like that, and when you interact with your contracts. So if the faucet is empty or under heavy use, you can go the Twitter route and just DM that account, and I'll send you some OETH. All right. So that's the OETH Twitter there, twitter.com/OasisETH. All right. So talking about addresses, let's go to this guy here. So you may be wondering how to get your very own address on the OETH network. It's fairly simple. You either go to brave.com or to metamask.io to obtain your wallet software. And you follow the instructions there, and you'll end up with a wallet and also an external account address, which is your very own. And remember, of course, when you go through the process, you'll be asked to write down your seed phrase, and you'll be given an opportunity to take your private key or to see your private key. So remember, don't ever share your seed phrase or your secret key, your private key, with anyone, ever. No one should ever ask for that either. And make sure that you also back up your wallet as instructed by these products. So there'll be procedures to either, take your private key and put that somewhere safe, or write down your seed phrase and re-enter it back into the system to confirm that you're across that. All right, so either brave.com or metamask.io, to wallet softwares that will actually integrate with what we're going to do next. Okay, so once you've downloaded the wallet software, you find the area in the settings of the wallet where you can set the RPC endpoint and also the chain ID. So the RPC endpoint, you're essentially telling your wallet software and your decentralized application that this is the blockchain network that I want to connect to. So the oasiseth.org is running a full node, and you're essentially just pointing your wallet to that, and you're able to query the blockchain and to sign transactions and submit them and wait for confirmation and things like that. So the RPC endpoint is HTTPS, and then it's rpc.oasiseth.org, and the port is 8545. And then also the chain ID is important, and that's 6969. So this will essentially connect your wallet software to the Oasis ETH mainnet. So just to show you that you can create the most amazing decentralized finance applications, here's one that we prepared earlier. This is basically Uniswap smart contracts, so that the factory and the exchange contracts, we've deployed them on the Oasis ETH network. And in addition, the Uniswap interface, you'll see if you go to uniswap.oasiseth.org, you'll see that we've got a front end single page DeFi DApp, and the front end will basically, detect your wallet's settings and so forth, and it'll have a look at the amount of tokens that you've got in there, and then you transact with the Uniswap smart contracts, which are both deployed on the Oasis ETH mainnet. So that's a really good example of how far you can take it. We've essentially taken one of the most popular, if not the most popular, trading, swapping, sending applications, and we've deployed that straight on the Oasis Ethereum network because of its compatibility, obviously, with Ethereum. So go ahead and try that out if you like. You can trade some tokens there and have a bit of a play with that. Okay, so getting to this integrated development environment. So Second State have created this tool, the Build tool. And Build is a complete environment which allows you to get smart contracts and dApps running in minutes, as opposed to around about a 4 to 6 hour plus turnaround of doing everything manually, like we used to do. So, installing the smart contract compiler and deployment tools and tool chains, and as well as setting up, servers and hosting your dApp and things like that. It's quite a drawn out process, and it actually changes quite a lot too. You'll notice that whenever you do it the manual way, there's always nuances that you have to change every time you do it differently. So with the Build environment, you essentially just open the website. There's nothing for you to install. There's nothing for you to do. You just start coding and push run or push deploy, and we'll show you all that in a minute. So we're making that as easy for you as we can. So if you go to the oasiseth.org site, scroll right down to the bottom, you'll see there a link which we're pointing to called Build for Oasis Ethereum, and that'll get you off and running. So why Build? Just briefly mentioned that a second ago. If you go to docs.secondState.io/build-development-tool, you'll see a host of information and tutorials there about using the Build tool. And there's many, many advantages, which we'll get to in a minute. And so let's go ahead and actually take a look under the hood of the Build tool. So we're spelling it B-U-I-D-L, build as in build, as hodl as in hold. So the old hodling. So the Build IDE lets you not only write and deploy smart contracts, it allows you to write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, as I mentioned before, and then also interact with the smart contract. We'll show you a couple of different ways to do that. So let's have a look at the front end interface. So you'll see there the green DApp section. If you click on that, then that opens up what's equivalent to the front end. So that's your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so you'll be able to write that there. And then you see the run section in the top left, when you click run, it essentially deploys that immediately on the right-hand side of your screen. So you've got your coding on the left, you hit run and your changes will immediately go over. And if you go and visit, I've just created a gist for this. If you visit my gist, so it's gist.github.com and then /T for Tim, letter P for Papa, and then McCullum. So TPMCCALLUM. So that's gist.github.com /TPMCCALLUM. You will see a few files there that I've built just to get you started with a really simple DApp. So if you have a look there, you take the HTML from in my gist list there, you'll see one called simple DApp 001. If you paste that HTML file into this HTML tab here, then that will be part of it. And from there, if we go and have a look at the other one, which is the JS. So in the gist, there's one with the same name, .js. If you take that and you paste it in to the JS tab, so you can see up here, we've got the JS on the right, then you will essentially have enough to actually push run and see something on the right-hand side. Now, one of the things when we're going to interact with the Oasis Ethereum network, we have to ensure that the build tool is actually talking to the blockchain. And so we have a wallet and we know how to set that up because we follow the instructions on Metamask or Brave. And so we can tell that wallet software what the RPC endpoint is, what the chain ID, and then when we go to the faucet and paste our public address in, we can see that we have some tokens in our wallet and that's all fine. With the build tool, because it's a separate web environment, we can either manually, so down the bottom left-hand corner, you can either hit the providers button and go ahead and fill out manually the RPC endpoint and the chain ID and so forth. The other thing you can do, which is way easier and probably makes more sense if you've got a wallet and it's in your browser and ready to go, is you can use the drop-down list, and instead of using the customize, you can actually opt for using Metamask. And what that'll do is it'll make the build tool just look up into your wallet and just integrate with that without you needing to do anything. So whatever happens, you're signing transactions and sending them and getting responses and things all through your wallet, the build tool will basically be in sync with that 100%. So you don't have to have separate accounts in the build tool, which you can do. So the build tool actually generates accounts and you can use one of those, but it's probably easier if you just actually integrate it with the wallet software out of the gate. And that way there's nothing more to do there. All right. So handy tip, opt in for using Metamask. Okay, so now we can see that we've got this HTML and JavaScript. So if we hit the run button, then we're essentially launching this front end, and now we're going to interact with the blockchain. So this is a quick little test here. So if you paste in an address and click check account balance, this front end of this DApp will go off and find the account balance for that account on the blockchain, and then it will return the result in the DApp. So if you have set up a wallet, got an address, gone to the faucet, you paste that address into this newly created DApp that we're running, you'll see your balance actually not only in your wallet, but you'll see it presented in the web page, which is the whole point. So we're now starting to write a DApp which is actually going to reflect what's going on in the blockchain. Now you can also click publish once you're completely finished. So this will actually package up your entire application and deploy it as a single page DApp. So I'd advise that you just wait until you're completely ready to go and then click publish. We'll show you how that works now, because I think it's really important to understand that you don't have to do any long manual processes to actually get your DApp deployed. You can actually just do it through this tool with a click of a button, but obviously you don't want to be doing that over and over again, because we can do it locally here. When we push run, we can test it, push run, test it, make changes. We might do that 100 times. And then eventually when we're ready and we've tested everything, okay, all right, now I'm going to publish it. So the publishing only takes a couple of minutes, but it'd be great if you could just sort of do that once or twice. So I've got here just, you click publish, you wait a few seconds, and what will happen then is you have this launched link will appear. And if you click that, you'll see your DApp deployed in the wild. So as I said, this should only be done once your DApp is completely finished. So please don't just go ahead and constantly publish it unless you're 100% ready. Now, I demonstrated this feature now at this early stage just to show you that you can realistically launch your DApp in just a few minutes. You don't have to like transition to another system. You can invest time into this build tool until everything's working and then know that you can just publish at the end. Also, just a little word, when you do publish it and you see the launched link come, if you immediately click on that, it might take a few minutes for it to actually generate all the DApp front end. So if you click it immediately, it probably won't show you the DApp, but if you just wait a couple of minutes, make a cup of tea, come back, it'll all be there. So don't expect to be instant because it will take a few seconds or a few minutes to actually generate and deploy and launch everything. So be patient there. All right. So just out of interest, this is what the current simple DApp would look like if it was published already. So I just went ahead and published that simple DApp, and that's essentially what you get. You can see there that we've got the opendapps.secondstate.io, and our simple DApp is now deployed, as simple as that is. All right, so moving right along. So far we've just interacted with the blockchain, but what about writing your own smart contract? Because we're not actually using a smart contract yet, are we? We're actually just connecting to the blockchain by giving it access, to the RPC point and the chain ID, and then we're just using HTML and JavaScript to essentially via Web3 to query the blockchain. And in our case, it was a view function. We just want to read an account balance. But what we really want to do, as is the case with Uniswap, we're talking about a complex DeFi app that's useful. We actually want to have smart contracts at the front end. We'll call the smart contract functions, and then that will in turn sign transactions and put them in for confirmations. And we start this process of integration between the front end and the back end. So let's click on the red contract link, and we need to write some Solidity code here. So as you can see here, we've done the DApp, the green one. Now, if you click on the contract one, you'll see that there's another section, which is actually a Solidity Solidity development environment. So we have actually a demo. I'm going to go to that now because that would actually be a great example. So I'm actually going to sort of leave the slides and just go to the build tool, I think, and actually do it. So I've got this example here with something I just wrote, and it's, just stores and retrieves data, but there's actually a demo which I'm going to actually do live. So let's just go forward a little bit. So I realize I'm at about the 20-minute mark, so I will get going. So essentially, if you go to, I'll just move this out of the way. If you go to oasiseth.org/dev, which is basically the equivalent of going down here, developers, see here, this getting started here actually takes you to this page, which is the documentation. We've actually got a section here which is specifically for Oasis Ethereum Paradigm. So if you click on getting started, here it actually shows you how to do all of this. Now, even better than that is we've actually already done it for you. So there's a link here, which is oasiseth.org/dev. If you click on that, it opens up an environment with a pre-written contract and also pre-written HTML and everything ready to go. So it's going to save you a bit of time. We've actually got the bare bones of this built so you can test it out. So I'm going to leave the slides and actually do a live demo, cross fingers. So here we have the contract, fairly straightforward. We have a variable there called stored data, and we have a set and a get function. So pretty straightforward. What we do here is we go compile, and what that'll do is generate both the ABI and the bytecode. And just a quick word. So see down here in the providers section, if I click on that, I've actually just connected it to my Metamask. So that was what I was saying before. I'm just going to open up Metamask, and you can have a look here. And you see that we're on the OETH mainnet, and we've got an account, and it's connected. And so that's all fairly straightforward. So it's that simple. Okay, so now we've got this simple storage contract. We want to click deploy to the chain. And we know that because we're connected, what that's going to do is give us a pop-up for confirmation. There we go. And then we see down the bottom here that we've got a transaction. I'll just move some things around here so I can see my own screen. So we've got a transaction that's been sent, waiting for confirmation, and it's been confirmed, so very quick. So now we have the transaction ID that's come back, and we also have the new address. So this is this smart contract deployed on the blockchain, and that's the address. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting and awesome. So this, if we go to the DApp tab now, what you'll see is the JavaScript code in here. When you first open this up, you'll notice that the ABI bytecode and contract address are all blank. And so what I did previously, like yesterday, is I wrote, just to show the old-fashioned way of doing it, you'd actually go over to here and you would, when you compile, you would cut and paste the bytecode and the ABI into your front end. And then you would go ahead and do all these, complex function calls to calculate gas and do everything and call the contract and these sorts of things and instantiate the contract. But what's actually being done here by the build tool automatically in this don't modify section is when you deploy the contract, it actually takes all of the information, the ABI, the bytecode and the address, and it puts it in. And then we have here, we actually can instantiate the contract very simply, and then we just go ahead and call the contract. So we'll show you how the front end does that in just a second. So we have a contract instance essentially, and you go instance.set or instance.get, which what we're doing is we're just calling get and set of the contract. So that's the bare bones of the back end Solidity, the front end JavaScript. And of course the HTML is super simple. We just have two buttons and they're identified by G and S. And so you can see here, we actually just access them, the JavaScript. So super simple. And that's basically all there is to it. You just start writing functions that do a bit more than get and set. And so we've done that. So now let's just have a look at a couple of other things. In here, in this resources section, you can click on the plus button for JavaScript. And what you can do in here is put in the CDN for jQuery. What that does is that enables jQuery throughout your application. And so you can use all the jQuery syntax and things like that. And then the other one is if you want to make your application look better and be responsive for all devices and things like that, in the CSS section of the resources, push the plus button, excuse me, and then add in the Bootstrap link for the CDN, and that'll enable you to use all the Bootstrap commands. You know, you've got containers and divs and percentages and things. So it's super easy. You're just basically coding up a really nice responsive mobile first style app. You're accessing all of the jQuery's functionality, which makes it really rich and easy to do. And so, yeah, that's the resources. That's a bit of a cool hack. You actually just embed those in there, and then they will actually be published to your single page front end. All right, so what else? Oh yeah, so in the contract section, once that's been deployed, if I click on that simple storage, we've got this interface in the build tool where I'm interacting with the smart contract just through this UI. So if I put there 1, 2, 3 and I click transact, that'll actually fire up a Metamask confirmation, which I've just accepted. And down here, we're sending a transaction. Transaction has been sent, success. So it's very quick. I can barely say it before it finishes. So now what we did there was a call to actually change the blockchain's state using set. And now what we're doing is we're going to call the get, but this is actually just a view function. So it just will poll for information. We're not actually paying for gas or creating a transaction that's going to change the blockchain state. And if you look down the bottom after clicking the get, we see that it's now returning us the 1, 2, 3 value that's in the blockchain. So that is one way to do it, but that's just a great little tool for you to test. What we actually want to do is go over here to the DApp tab, and we want to click run. And we see on the right hand side here that we have get data and set data. So if we get data, it says 1, 2, 3. And so this is, we might, so set data will go 2, 2, 2, 2. We click OK. Now we're going to get a MetaMask confirmation there. Sorry, just one sec. So yeah, sure. Confirm. All right, give that a second. So down the bottom, we should see some activity. I'll just click there and see if that's gone ahead yet. Yeah, great. So we click get, and now we're getting the new value of 222. So that's a really simple example of, you know, you've got two buttons, you click on them, it activates the, I'll just click OK, the JavaScript, which will call the, first of all, instantiate the smart contract instance using the current live address and the ABI bytecode. And then it will call the functions of the smart contract and then return that information back to the DApp. And like I said before, you can click the publish button here, and then you'll see this in a different way, which will actually be, you know, published live on the web. And whatever bootstrap, CSS and everything you can do to make it look awesome, go ahead and do that, please, because that would be really great. Okay, so I think at this point, I'll just go. Okay, see how much time we've got there, sorry. All right, I'll just go and give you a couple of quick tips before I wrap it up. So that's essentially building your DApp using these tools. If you want information about you know, security and writing Solidity and things like that, there's an excellent book called Mastering Ethereum, and you can obviously buy that. But I've just clicked here. They've actually, the GitHub page where it is all written in the first place, actually provides you with some chapters here that you can just click, you know, one at a time and go through and read them. So this is not a book, it's just the actual pages. So there's one down here called Smart Contract Security, and I highly recommend reading this. It's a really, really great chapter, which has all of the security best practices. And it talks about some really common and easy to fall into traps, like reentrancy, certain vulnerabilities. And these are things that have happened in the past and things to avoid. So if you go ahead and read this, it will actually explain to you, you know, what's the vulnerability like, what's it called, how does it work, how do people, how do users of the DApp, you know, tweak their interactions so that they can perform attacks and things like that. And it's quite a long chapter, and in fact, it's quite long. It'll probably take you a fair while to get through it, but I highly recommend reading it, because as you're reading it, you just start to have these aha moments of all sorts of functionality that you can add into your smart contracts to protect yourself from any potential vulnerabilities. And there's other chapters in this book as well. If you look into because we're writing Solidity code, there is a smart contracts and Solidity here, which actually explains to you all of the different syntax in the language. And it's very good, and it explains about inheritance and all these sorts of things. Obviously, the Viper chapter is about the Viper programming language, so we're not doing that because we can't compile that in the build tool. We're compiling Solidity. But if you read the Viper one, it explains it compares and contrasts Solidity versus Viper and how it doesn't do certain things, like it doesn't do inheritance, etc., etc. So Solidity is quite powerful, quite flexible. You can do a lot, and please go ahead, read the contract security section, and there's more information in this book. Of course, if you want to go back to the basics, then you're welcome to do that as well. And some fundamentals up the top that you might like to look at. Just a couple of other things. There's a excellent consensus.github.io. There's a bunch of security tools. So you can essentially go ahead and perform some pretty rich analysis on your project using some tools that are automated. There's a lot of resources here. So have a look through there, see what sort of things that you're interested in, and do that. There's another one here, which is this audit-CI. Have a look at that, have a bit of a read. It's essentially allowing you again to make sure that your DApp is using best practice. And a lot of the stuff's automated because a lot of people are writing DApps and they need these tools so that they can do the best. And this EVM toolkit is another one. So you can have a look at that link up there. So please have a look at these and use these. They're very good. And you can still, like I say, this build environment back here, you're just implementing all these ideas and things in your syntax, in your code, and then you just recompile and you redeploy, and then obviously the DApp is synchronized automatically, so there's nothing for you to do. You're just having these values updated. When you're writing the front end, you're just changing your CSS, changing your JavaScript. All you do is hit run and it republishes every time. So you can do rapid development here. The blockchain's obviously very fast, so you're going to have no problems there with speed or anything like that. And if you've got enough money in your wallet from the faucet, you're going to be great, and you can go ahead and get into it. So I think that's about all. Let's go back to here. Yeah, so I think that's about all from me. Thanks for having me, and good luck.